Tonight we have a great topic with Dr. Christy Kane. She'll be joining us for Therapy Tuesday. And Dr. Kane will be talking about how can parents help their children in gender identity process. So this is going to be a great topic. What I'm going to do is, because this is something she's noticing an increase amount of patients coming to her with parents suffering from or dealing with gender identity process. And she's going to actually explain what that is and how we should handle this. So let me send her an invite and then go, Dr. Christy Kane. Where is she? Ah, here she is. Okay, now she is invited. And we are going to be, hello from Utah. So she should be joining us. And hello from Kansas City, Royal Games. Hello, Sarah, how are you? And Dr. Kane should be joining us momentarily. This is actually a topic that I get a lot of questions about. Colleen says, hello, friend. We're with Dr. Kane tonight. I sent her an invite. I don't know where she is. Let me send her another one. Go to Dr. Christy Kane. And so today's session is going to be about how to deal with identity crisis. Or gender identity process. And she has many young people dealing with an increased mental health issue because of the reaction of parents. So we're going to let Dr. Kane help us with this. And that's, but I don't know where she is. Okay, somebody says PIAA join. Awesome. Let's see. I got my mission call today. So where did you get your mission call? I would love to hear that while we wait for Dr. Kane. That is so cool. Holler. Now, I don't know where she is. I just texted her and she goes, I'm logged on. I'm going to put I'm on. Send. Oops. How do you hit send? Ha, that. Ha. Okay, so we will have Dr. Christy Kane joining us tonight for Therapy Tuesday. If she figures out how to accept the join, she does it every Tuesday. So we have a question from Random Quote. I don't know yet. I'm opening it tonight. Oh, that is so cool. Oh my gosh, you have to share with me the video. That is super, super, super exciting. So should we all take a guess where you're going? I say, maybe the East Coast. That would be really cool. So, all right, I'm really embarrassed. We do not have Dr. Christy Kane on right now. Maybe she had a patient emergency because she is not logged on, but she just texted me saying that she says, okay, do you see the invite? Yeah, let's see here. No, I don't. Oh, there she is. Dr.
Hey,
Kane,
Dennis.
holler.
How's it going?
Very well. It's good to see you. We have a
Good to
lot
see
of
you.
people. We have a lot of people that are excited about this topic. So I have some questions for you, Dr. Kane.
Okay.
What is gender identity?
Well, from a professional standpoint, it comes from person's perspective of their own individual gender, how they view themselves.
Okay. And so so you've noticed an increased mental health issue with people coming to you because they're dealing with either their parents have their child that have come out as a different gender, or do you want to explain this further?
Sure. What I've noticed recently is I think as our society continues to evolve, if you will, and social media becomes more present and conversations take place, we have a generation of young people perhaps more open than any other generation in exploring their own gender identity, their own sexuality. And what I'm noticing is as they begin to have those conversations, sometimes parents, and not meaning harm, don't know how to explore and have safe conversations around this topic. And so sometimes they can make some pretty harsh decisions, especially in religious cultures, that shut the young people down. And so they take away from themselves having a beautiful conversation with their young people, to where young people seek other sources to discuss these issues. And I think it's so important to talk about this topic to help parents be open-minded and not afraid to have conversations around gender identity and sexuality, so that their young people feel comfortable coming to them and not going someplace else.
Yes, that is so true. So like when I grew up, there was no such thing as, it was like you were gay or straight or bisexual. There wasn't this whole spectrum of I believe there's over 20 different ways to identify now. And I don't really understand the difference between they, them, it's something that's really confusing for my mind. So I can imagine it be confusing for parents when their child says that they want to be referred to as.
Right. Yeah. I had a young person that I saw recently that was asking to be identified by dual pronouns, and their parents were like, "What?" And very much felt like they didn't want to do that. And so I had to explain, first of all, to the young person what they were asking and what that really meant in their own life. And after that conversation, the young person went, "Oh, so maybe dual pronouns isn't me yet." And I said, "Okay." And then explain to their parents how to have these open conversations. It's even important that parents can say to their children, "I don't know what that means. Help me understand what that means." Don't immediately go, "Well, I'm not going to do that, and that's wrong." Instead, say, "Why do you feel that way? Why are you thinking that way? Give me better." And so I think that's powerful in bringing about fluidity and openness and connection. I want my kids coming to me on these topics, not going someplace else.
Amen on that. So I just want to remind everybody, I'm going to get to all of your comments, so please keep them coming. And Dr. Cain and I will answer each and every one of them. And let us know if you have any questions, because this is still new for me. And I receive a lot of DMs with this genre or this topic. So I'm still learning, just as I guess we all are learning. And I want to be very clear about that this is a learning process and it's constantly evolving and changing. So Dr. Cain, are there any warning signs that parents can look out for?
Warning signs can be individuals starting to change as far as their dress, as far as how do they refer to themselves. Oftentimes shutting down, increased levels of depression and anxiety, more mood swings, more isolation. They can monitor social media. There can be a lot more searching and desire to find out information that could be incorrect, but kids are going to the internet because they don't know where else to go sometimes.
Yeah.
And so those are the warning signs as far as knowing, hey, you know what? I need to talk to my kids, but also all the time they should be having healthy conversations around sexuality with their kids at younger and younger ages.
That just amazes me, that it's coming so young these days. But I often refer people to our gospel library, because under life help, there's a section for same-sex attraction. And there's also a section about how to come out to leaders in your church and why it's important for you to come out and that you are loved and accepted. There's also another section under life help for transgender, and that is in our gospel app library, where we find everything, which is cool. So another question, the last question I have for you, Dr. Cain, and then we'll get to the questions of people that are posted them. What do you say when someone comes out to you?
Well, I think your first response is thank you for trusting me, and that I consider this a sacred confidant, and how can I help you? What do we want? What do you want to talk about? And be willing to say, gosh, I don't know, but perhaps we can find resources to help. but
Yes.
don't react, don't shut down, don't blow up, because that
Mm.
first reaction can definitely alter how that individual is going to move towards conversation in the future.
In the
And it's even
future.
appropriate to say, okay, let me take a breath. I didn't see this coming.
Mhm.
I want to understand. Just let me breathe for a moment. Everything's
Yes.
okay.
Yes. And Colleen just said, thank you for trusting me. I'm going to memorize that. And so that's a good point. So let's see what questions we have, and if there's anything else you'd like to talk about, because you're in the front line. You are like a frontline worker right now. Like when COVID hit, the frontline workers were it. But you are the front line that's hearing this. You felt prompted through prayer to have this conversation tonight with us because you've noticed an increased amount of parents coming to you and children coming to you with what, Dr. Kane? Anxiety, unsure,
Well,
not knowing what to do.
unsure, yep, unsure what questions to ask, unsure how to talk about it, feeling like their parents don't understand, feeling like their parents are going to blame or shame them.
Mm,
And then parents coming saying, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to help, I don't know how to guide. And so I think it comes down to a foundational principle of all of us becoming much more comfortable talking about healthy sexuality in all forms, because
yeah.
it's not only just kids questioning their gender identity or their sexual identity, it's
Mm,
even kids saying, I don't feel comfortable talking to mom and dad about sex, and I'm going to get married, and what does
yeah.
that mean? And so we really need to be better, and we need to learn that sexuality is beautiful and amazing and not a shameful bad thing, and help our kids understand that as well.
Yes. Yes. And that's something that, a lot of people ask me is how can you be gay and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ? Well, I follow the same commandments that my friend Dr. Christy Kane follows. She's single in the church, and her and I follow the same commandments of celibacy. And that's what it boils down to is we all have agency, and that agency is I choose to be on the covenant path. So let's get to some of these questions. We have Colleen says, hello, my friends with yellow hearts. And then we have, oh, she goes, holler, because I do a lot of hollering. I got my mission call today from somebody, and they said it's random quotes. And I asked when I was waiting for you to log on, I asked, where are you serving? That's so cool. And they says, I don't know yet. They haven't opened the paper. So they will tag us in both of that video that they post. And I'm sure you'll see it, Dr. Kane, because you see everything that people tag you in. We have another question that says, let's see if I can find it. There's a lot. Oh, this is so important to bring light on how open we can be with our kids. And that is true. And that's from my friend Colleen Lowe in Northern Orange County,
Mm-hmm.
California. And she actually, had a great story about she almost lost her child. And she asked God, what do I do and then God said, what will you do if I take your child from you? And she's like, please hold, God, I will get back to you on that. And the answer that she received from God was, he's not your child, he's mine, and he's on loan to you. And I thought that was a powerful statement, Dr. Kane. I thought that was really powerful.
And I think that, Dennis, how you said, you've made the choice to stay on the covenant path. I think it's also important for parents to recognize that if their children choose opposite, love should not end.
Mm,
We should consistently love and be kind and encouraging to those,
yeah.
regardless of pathway they choose. And sometimes that's hard when parents feel like perhaps their child is choosing contrary to what they hoped they would have chosen.
What I always do is in the beginning, it really upset me when somebody said they were leaving the church because I took it personal. Like maybe I didn't coach them right, or maybe I didn't, provide, maybe I wasn't listening to the promptings of the Holy Ghost, and that's why they're leaving. But what I do now know is through counsel that I leave the door open. and I remind them that they will always be an eternal brother and sister in my eyes, because that will be that you never know when they'll return or when they want to be able to come back to you and confide in you, and that's important.
No.
So
Don't close. I tell parents, don't ever say something you can't take back. Don't
yes,
say something that you don't really mean, because in anger, a child may take it serious.
yep. So we have DBACKS Mama says, I don't have a child with gender dysphoria, but I do have a BFF who does. What I want so desperately to understand this. How do you think our friend DB Mama can help understand gender dysphoria?
Well, I think, first of all, there's more and more research and understanding that this is a neurological, genetic-based issue. And so we need to come to understand that there are individuals born with different gender issues, and that we need to stop looking at it as someone choosing poorly, and understanding that there are real, true genetic neurological factors, and we can support people to come to understand the beauty of who they are, and that their identity has a complex pieces of pies, not just one. So we learn to support a person in all aspects of their lives, not just one, and love them for all aspects of their lives.
Yeah, yeah. So we have a question from same as and then it's longer. It says, I want to know more about sexual identity, though I can't find myself agreeing with everything, but I don't want my knee-jerk reaction to be anger and prejudgment.
I think the most important thing to understand about the diversity of sexuality is the diversity of God's children. He created billions and billions of individuals. We're all diverse. And some of us view the world from different lenses, whether it's dealing with same-sex attraction, whether it's dealing with cancer, whether it's dealing with diabetes, we're all dealing with different issues in our lives. And the best way to come to understand them is, if you're talking to someone who has that specific issue, is to ask them about it. How do they feel? How is it impacting their lives? How are they navigating it? And how can you help?
How can you help? And DB Mama says, that is so beautiful, a beautiful response. I'm going to remember that for many conversations. And I guess one of the from my personal experiences, one of the worst things you could say to somebody is, my friend Becky McIntosh wrote the book called Love Boldly, and it's how to embrace your LGBT loved ones in the church. And she has a chapter on do's and don'ts. And one of them is to say, I always knew. Because for many of us, we try so hard to hide it. Like when I was a walk-in to our church, I really, really tried to hide it, that I was this way. And I had somebody tell me a year later, my husband and I were looking at you saying, does he realize what church he's in? Maybe we should tell him to go to the more open-minded church up the street. And Dr. Kane, I was mortified. I mean, I didn't let her know that I was mortified, but because so many of us do try to hide it. And I did not want to be the poster child for the church, if you may. It just, Heavenly Father had a different plan. So I guess that's my advice is don't use that term, I always knew, because for so many times people try to hide it. Colleen
And
says,
don't let the one piece be all you see it as a person. See the whole person.
See the whole person. That's so true. Colleen said, yes, we need to open up the conversation, and I'm glad we're doing this. And you know what I think was one of the biggest blessings in the church is I was baptized after the November 15th or the November 2015 announcement. And people said, how could you join that church with that announcement? And I just had faith. But the blessing of that announcement with our church, Dr. Kane, was that bishops and friends that have never reached out to somebody in years that have left the church because they were gay or lesbian or bisexual or whatever, actually reached out and brought them brownies or cookies or a meal and said, hey, I just heard the announcement. I'm thinking about you. And it actually got members talking about the word gay and lesbian because they never would talk about that before. And I think that is such a blessing that it opened up that dialogue.
And we need to continue to open up dialogues, right?
Yes,
The
we
more
do.
open, honest, caring conversations with the desire to truly understand, not judge, then the more
Yes.
effective and powerful things can be.
Yes. So we have another question from ant.nett. Says, I personally think COVID lockdown has affected us all mentally. For me, it has made me more reserved, especially as over here in the UK, we have lockdown for nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. But I did a radio show, a nationally syndicated radio show. I think it was USA Radio or one of those, or it was Seattle Morning News or it's one of those. And because the Gallup poll came out in March that said, so a year ago in March, the Gallup poll was showing that 1 in 10 teenagers identify as LGBTQIA. Now it was 5.6% of kids identify. So within a 1 year period, it goes from 1% to 6%. And I think that's why, Dr. Kane, you're seeing an increase of this. But I think a lot of it may have to do with the fact that you hang out with groups of friends, and one of those friends becomes and says, I'm bisexual. And then more and more people may be influenced by that and want to say, well, I'm pansexual, which means I just love everybody. So do you think that's affected the numbers?
I believe that oftentimes when kids feel like they are misfits, that they're not included, that they're seeking a friend group or different things, oftentimes the friend group that is the most open and understanding is the LGBT community. And
Yeah.
oftentimes in a desire to fit in, they may join within that. I also think because we're talking about it a lot more, kids feel a lot more safer to explore and seek to understand. I also think parents need to understand that sexual exploration is a normal part of maturation and that
Yes.
we need to help them with those conversations. And if the conversations aren't happening at home, they can
Yes.
happen someplace else. I've had kids come into my office who thought they were one way, which I allowed them to totally explore that. And then they realized that they weren't. And so that's the important process. And it's not because I was changing them in any way. It was
No.
giving them accurate information to think about things. And so we just need to understand what's going on in our society right now.
Yes. So we have DB Mama says with Niagara Falls emojis crying and blue hearts. I'm so impressed by you both. So she's really impressed with you, Dr. Kane, I'm sure more so than myself because I'm just the host. So we have ANT.NETT. I did have in my ward, have got woken as obviously women, and that was been good. I ain't out to people in church as my ward isn't
As
exact,
friendly as it could be.
yeah, as friendly as it should be.
That's
I
sad.
have advice for them, but I think we should hear from you, Dr. Kane.
So I hope that we shift, and I hope we learn to be accepting of all and understanding. And it's unfortunate when individuals feel that they can't be their authentic self. So, Dennis, I've got to wrap up. I've got to actually go see patients waiting in my
All
lobby.
right.
So
Thank you,
I'm just
Dr.
going to I'm going to remind people to buy my book, Dennis.
Yes.
I have my book out, Fractured Souls, Splintered Memories, Unlocking the Boxes of Trauma. Please go order my book on Amazon and please leave a review.
Or you can get it at Deseret and Siegel. And
Yes.
that's another one. So I'm sorry, I will post this as IGTV. If you have further questions, you can ask Dr. Kane on there. And I thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sorry we ran over, Dr. Kane. Have a great
No
night
problem.
with your patients.
Okay. Thanks, Dennis. Bye-bye.
Will do. Bye-bye.